Welcome to the Invite Health podcast, where our degreed healthcare professionals are excited to offer you the most important health and wellness information you need to make informed choices about your health. You can learn more about the products discussed in each of these episodes and all that Invite Health has to offer at www.invitehealth.com/podcast. First-time customers can use promo code podcast at checkout for an additional 15% off your first purchase. Let's get started.
Hi, my name is Jerry Hickey. I'm a nutritional pharmacist. I've been practicing pharmacy since the 1970s, nutrition since the 1980s, so combining both of these disciplines has been a great voyage for me. Today I'd like to talk to you about allergies and about the impact of probiotic bacteria on allergies. So let's discuss something called the microbiome. The microbiome are the different microbes that live in you and on you. For instance, there's bacteria in your lungs, there's bacteria in your digestive tract, there's bacteria in women's vaginal tissue, there, of course, in your mouth, but also like on your scalp and on your eyeballs and all over your skin. The number of bacteria in us and on us slightly outnumbers the number of human cells we have, just to give you an idea of how many bacteria there are. So there's trillions and trillions of bacteria. Along with bacteria, there's also viruses. There's also yeast bacteria. There's like at least 7 strains of yeast in our intestines at any given time. And there's also archaea, which are kind of like more primitive types of bacteria. Now, the bacteria that live with us basically fall into 2 categories. Good bacteria, which promote health. They give us a heads up on health, and bad bacteria. And fortunately, generally, the good bacteria outnumber the bad, and they sort of do crowd control. They keep the bad bacteria behaving. But sometimes there's opportunistic situations. In other words, something happens to your immune system, something kills off your good bacteria, then the bad bacteria can grow in number and cause disease. So it always pays to have a lot of good bacteria. So I tell people to kind of approach this at 3 different levels. 1, a great diet. A great diet. You know, you fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, some fresh whole grains, nuts and seeds as a core of your diet. Beans and other legumes. Try to avoid the bad things. Too much alcohol, smoking. Cleaning fluids, when you're spraying cleaning fluids and you're inhaling that actually kills off your good bacteria. So too much sugar, too much salt, smoking, too much alcohol, like I said, they can kill off your good bacteria. Unfortunately, aging kills off your good bacteria. Obesity seems to kill them off. So does, there seems to be an imperfect balance in diabetics and pre-diabetics also. And of course, many drugs kill them off, especially antibiotics. So I tell people to keep your good bacteria going at 3 levels. 1, the good diet, like I already mentioned. 2, fermented foods like kefir. And 3, take a good probiotic, one that's based on science and research. So that's what I think we've achieved at Invite Health. We have a couple of probiotics based on real deep science. We're using strains that have a lot of research behind them, human research. So I want to tell you my story, how I came into looking into probiotic bacteria and allergies. I was born in Ireland, a little almost coastal village, Middleton County, Cork. And we never had allergies in Ireland, none of us. And we moved to America and our diets totally changed. In Ireland, we had fresh fish. I mean, it was just caught that morning. We had fresh mushrooms. We had fresh grains. We had fresh vegetables. Very good stuff. We picked our own fruit. We used to pick berries out in the woods. Problem is, when we came to America, my father became sick. He couldn't work, and we became very impoverished very quickly. And we wound up eating canned foods. Like fruit to us was fruit cocktail. You know, that fruit that's cut up and it's been sitting in syrup forever. Frozen vegetables, bagged vegetables. I mean, just a completely different diet. And not long after that, my older brother developed severe allergies, terrible allergies. He never had them in Ireland, never. And eventually, by about sixth grade, I developed allergies. So we had been here since I was 4 years old. So that's about 10 or 11. So over 6 years, I developed allergies. And what happened, I came out with a probiotic with 5 strains based on a lot of research. And I started taking it because I had all kinds of intestinal problems. And one thing I was allergic to was wheat. I was allergic to wheat. I didn't have celiac sprue, which is a really severe reaction. I mean, that's like an autoimmune disease. That's terrible. Those people have to totally avoid wheat. They have to avoid the gluten in wheat their entire life. I didn't have it anywhere near that level. For me, it would make me fatigued. Oddly, it would make me have a tough time remembering people's names, but it would really upset my stomach. It would really upset my stomach. So I started taking the probiotic, and I was about 4 months into it, and it was a Saturday, and my wife brought home a delicious looking loaf of Italian bread. And it was a really crispy, dry day outside. The bread was just perfect looking. It had all those crinkles and nooks and crannies that, with the well-cooked crust. I mean, it looked delicious. So I said to my wife, you know what? I'm going to have a slice. And my wife said, listen, it's Saturday. We're not going anywhere tonight. You know what's going to happen. You're going to have the Italian bread. You're going to have to run for the bathroom. Excuse me for being graphic. I said, I know, but I have to have this. So I cut a piece of Italian bread, and I put a little slab, very thin slab of butter on it. I ate it. It was delicious. I'm waiting for the other foot to drop. Nothing happened. I shout out to my wife, hey, I didn't have an attack. So I had a second piece of the bread, and again, nothing happened. I was actually amazed, because before that, if I had a bowl of pasta, it would kill me. I mean, I'd have terrible cramps. So here I had 2 slices of whole wheat Italian bread, nothing, and it was delicious. So that was Saturday, and I hated my home computer. We had a laptop. I couldn't stand using it. The only thing I would do with it was answer some emails or play solitaire. I wouldn't do any research on it because it was too difficult. So that Monday morning, I went into work really early, and I started to look up probiotics and wheat allergies. And I found studies. I couldn't believe it. For instance, there were studies in children who had wheat allergies, and when they gave them certain strains of probiotics over a 3-month period, the reaction to the wheat would go away. Now, when they stopped the probiotic in these children anyway, 3 months later, the reaction would start to come back again. So there was something really connected with the probiotic. I mean, it was real. So then I found studies of children who had peanut allergies. Now, that's a really dangerous allergy. Children with peanut allergies, if they eat a peanut, they can have something called an anaphylactic reaction, which means the reaction from their immune system is so severe they can't breathe. They can literally choke to death. So doctors were giving them the desensitization drops, I think. It was over in England. There were several studies. And there was a bunch of studies also from Australia. The allergists were treating them with desensitization drops, and they added the probiotics to it, and it really got their peanut allergies under control. Now, that doesn't mean the kids are free to go out and eat peanuts. That would be not a good thing. That would be unwise. But if they ate a peanut by accident, it wouldn't be life-threatening. I'm sure that's the strategy. In any event, so then I found studies on milk allergies, and then I started finding studies on adults with pollen allergies. And there's something really to it. The probiotics were reducing pollen allergies. I mean, pollen allergies in the spring is tree pollen, like poplar trees. And pollen allergies in the summer, like June, July, is generally grass pollen. And after that, it's weeds. They call it ragweed, but it's all weeds. All the weeds are pollinating. So I found out that my tree pollen allergy went away too. When I ate the wheat, it was over the winter, so there was no tree pollen. Now, I had been on the probiotic, I think about 4 months at that point. I didn't write it down in my book when I started to take it, but it was about 4 months. That spring, my tree pollen allergies were practically nothing. And now it's 2 years into it, and my tree pollen allergies are almost non-existent. They just don't exist. I get a little tickle in my throat a couple of times. Whereas previously, in years before with tree pollen allergies, I would feel like I had the flu. It was terrible. I'd have to go home from work. I'd be dizzy. I'd have a headache. I couldn't breathe. I mean, it was awful. So this change was phenomenal for me. So now there's a number of studies showing that certain strains of probiotics, not all strains, certain strains of probiotics help with food allergies and also help with pollen allergies. I don't think they've done studies yet for dog and cat dander. So let's look at some of the studies. I grouped together a bunch of studies. Okay, this first study has to do with children. It's in the journal Pediatric Allergy and Immunology. And it's from a number of academic research institutions in Australia and New Zealand and pediatric hospitals. And it's a randomized multi-center study using Bifidobacterium animalis subspecies lactis or Lactobacillus rhamnosus. And they gave it to the women who were 6 months into pregnancy. And they also gave it to them while they were breastfeeding the babies. And they looked at the babies years later, and they found that the incidence of allergies was 54% what they expected it to be. In other words, if you take a certain amount of children, they expect a certain percentage of the children to have allergies. That percent was 54% lower. And as far as hay fever, it was about 30% lower. And there's a number of studies showing that Lactobacillus rhamnosus, Lactobacillus plantarum, and Bifidobacterium animalis subspecies lactis really help children's allergies and really help adult allergies. Now I have about 25 studies here, and that would sort of be redundant to read these. Let me just go over a couple for adults. So this is researchers in Switzerland. It's in the journal, the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition, and it's peak allergy season for grass pollen. Peak allergy season of grass pollen. So they were able to test these people and see their reactivity to the grass pollen. Then they introduced them into the study, and they gave them Bifidobacterium animalis subspecies lactis or placebo every day for 3 months. For 2 months. And they found it really had an impact. They were looking at things like markers in the blood, and they found in this study that cells involved with allergies were much less problematic, and inflammation in their body and the release of histamine was much lower in the people with the probiotic. So here's Lactobacillus plantarum. So there's 3 strains of probiotics that I find again and again and again are helpful with people who are prone to allergies. Lactobacillus plantarum, Lactobacillus rhamnosus, and Bifidobacterium animalis subspecies lactis. So here's one with Lactobacillus plantarum. It's the journal Beneficial Microbes. It's a number of academic research institutions in Japan. And they gave adults with allergic rhinitis. So that could be allergies to tree pollen, grass pollen, rose pollen, anything like that. They gave them the Lactobacillus plantarum every day for 8 weeks. And in their allergy season, it strongly reduced sneezing. Their nose wasn't stuffy. It was getting rid of stuffy nose. And there was a big improvement in the blood biomarkers for allergies. All those cells released by the immune system and the cytokines, the chemical messengers from the immune system that indicate an allergic reaction, were way down. Now, as far as it goes, it seems that a probiotic helps with allergies. It starts to break away, eat away, chip away at the allergy within the first 4 weeks or so. That doesn't mean you're going to get the peak relief over that time. That means it's going to start helping you at that point. And then over time, the allergy becomes less and less until eventually, apparently, a lot of people don't react at all. Or the allergy is so mild it doesn't mean anything anymore. And there's many studies supporting what I'm saying here. The studies show that when you take the correct strains of probiotics, and generally I recommend at least 2 strains, at least 1 billion microbes each. They have to be CFU, which means colony forming units, which means they're surviving, they're alive. Here's timelines that I see from research and from my experience with my clients. In the first 3 weeks or so, probiotic bacteria help with intestinal problems like constipation, gassiness, bloating, stomach cramps, diarrhea. So within 3 weeks, it helps all those conditions, and all of a sudden your digestion seems to improve rather rapidly after that. And it takes about 2 or 3 weeks for a probiotic to help improve your immune system, the ability of the immune system to fight off bacterial infections and viral infections. But it takes longer to help with allergies. That seems to start, according to a couple of very recent studies, at the 4-week point, but then it gets better and better over time. Now, along with allergies, the same probiotic bacteria have been shown to help with food sensitivity. Some people have trouble digesting certain things, and also lactose intolerance. Certain people just can't break down milk sugar. In any event, I want to thank you for tuning into our Invite Health podcast. You can find all of our episodes for free wherever you listen to your podcasts, or you can visit us at invitehealth.com/podcast. Please leave us a review, leave us a rating. Please follow us on social networks, like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay in touch. And I'll see you next time on another episode of the Invite Health podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Please stay healthy.